I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I ask that everybody please remain standing for a moment of silence in the passing of our former board president, Regis Wailuda. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone to the South River Board of Education regular meeting of Thursday, October 20th, 2022. In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Laws of 1975 of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the South River Board of Education was provided in the following manner. On October 11th, 2022, the notice was delivered to the office of the South River Borough Clerk and posted at the Board of Education Administration Building. On October 11th, 2022, the notice was faxed mailed to the following newspapers: the Home News Tribune and the Sentinel. On October 11th, 2022, the notice was posted at the South River Borough Clerk's office. Mr. Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bazak. Here. Mr. Bussin.
Here.
Mrs. Bush.
Here.
Ms. Byrne.
Here.
Mrs. Lau.
Here.
Mr. Nielsen.
Here.
Ms. Sadowski.
Here.
Ms. Young Yao.
Here.
Ms. Urbanik.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Rodriguez has been excused for this evening. We have a quorum. Thank you. Mr. Rosa, would you please go over the minutes?
Certainly. So for the minutes, we have the June 23rd, 2022 regular meeting. This is a revised minutes. We also have revised minutes for August 25th, 2022 for the regular meeting. For the September 19th, 2022, we have the pre-meeting minutes. We also have the September 22nd, 2022 special meeting minutes, and also the regular meeting minutes for the same date, September 22nd, 2022.
Thank you. Board members, what is your pleasure on the minutes?
Move the minutes as read.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Sadowski. If there are no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Under use of facilities, Mr. Rosa.
Yes. So we have a couple of additions for Monday, but I'll start from the top. We have South River, the class of 2024, doing Halloween walkthrough and fundraiser on October 27th at 6 p.m. We have Caldwell Banker and Nations Lending doing a homeownership seminar for Spanish and Portuguese-speaking community. That's from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We have the South River Recreation Department Monday through Thursdays starting on November 14th through April 1st from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. For wrestling practice. The South River Knights Pop Warner Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays starting December 1st through May 10th of 2023 in the primary school cafeteria. Cheerleading practice. We also have the South River Recreation Department Mondays and Fridays starting November 14th through February 10th, 2023, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the middle school gym for basketball. And finally, we have the South River Recreation Department Tuesday and Thursdays starting December 1st, 2022 through May 10th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the primary school cafeteria for gymnastics.
Thank you. Are all the board members satisfied with these uses of facilities? If so, board would like a motion.
Nielsen, as read in accordance with board policies.
We have a motion on the use of facilities.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Lell. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries. Mrs. Lell, the financial report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vanek. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby certifies that it is in receipt of the financial report, which indicates that no major account has been overexpended and that sufficient funds are available to meet the district's financial obligations for the remainder of the fiscal year of Finance Committee recommends that the reports of the Board Secretary and the Treasurer of School Monies for August 2022 be approved, and I so move.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mrs. Lell,
Second.
second by Mr. Nielsen. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries. At this time, we're going to turn the meeting over to our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Sylvia Zurcher.
Thank you, Mrs. Urbane. I'd like to begin today with an update from our Disproportionality Committee. The district, once again, for this school year, is joining the Central Jersey Consortium for Excellence in Equity Committee from Monmouth University. And our high school students already had an opportunity to attend a student session led by CJCEE. And they actually went to Monmouth University for this session where they participated in activities targeting areas of improvement in regards to accessibility, equity, with a lens for how to make things more equitable and accessible for all students. In addition, our middle and high schools will once again participate in the Middlesex County Day of Dialogue. Last year, this day was held here in South River. We are looking to see if we will be holding the day here in South River once again, or we might move to a different district in Middlesex County, and I'll be reporting on that next month. But we're looking at those dates for December. We held a parent advisory group meeting just last week, and this meeting was really meant to have parents join from all different schools to be able to give us their perspective on different opportunities, different resources, different interests that the children have in the district, and how the district can really follow up on those and promote those. So we had a good discussion about field trips. Certainly we've come out of the pandemic, and we've come out of a time where field trips have really not taken place regularly for quite some time. So we talked about how to discuss field trips with our teacher leaders and begin to plan activities that align with curriculum goals, but definitely start to put those back into the rotation and the regular curriculum. We talked about intramural opportunities for elementary and middle school students, really for exposure. There may be things that we can just really give to our students for them to have an idea of what some of the athletic and some of the clubs might look like, and gauge their interest at a much younger age. We talked about after-school programs and opportunities. We discussed the 21st Century Grant that the district has been discussing and would like to pursue if available, which is a grant dedicated for after-school opportunities. We talked about bathroom supplies, supervision, challenges with facilities that we face, and the new supplies that are coming in, which are the automated soap dispensers, toilet tissue dispensers, and paper towel dispensers, and hoping that these will make a big difference, along with the additional supervision and the check-in, sign-in procedures that we now have at the elementary, middle, and high schools. We talked about lunch menu improvements, and really some of the, some of the challenges that we've had in food service and during our lunch period, such as wait times, especially on those days when we have very popular items and a lot more kids buying lunch, like pizza day. We talked about accuracy in school supply lists and supply list requests from teachers, and how we can just really streamline the process of putting out those supply lists for parents to really have much more advance notice to be able to get the supplies that they need for the school year. It was a good meeting. We were there for about an hour and a half. We held it via Zoom, and we had a lot of just really productive conversation. I thought a lot of good items that we can follow up on, and we look forward to our next meeting, which I think is scheduled for early December. And we'll be sending out that invite as well. In facilities, we do have some updates. The primary school steps, this has been a project that we've been working on since August when the railing broke. And we've had some challenges in getting a vendor. It is a custom-made railing that actually has to be built. We do have a vendor now. We required a second quote based on state funding laws. We achieved getting a second quote. And so now we're in that waiting period for them to develop the railing. But in the meantime, Mr. Rosa, upon arriving to the district, worked with our facilities team to try to rig up at least a temporary way to secure the current railing that we have. And at least that buys us a little bit more time while we wait for the more permanent structure. So that's been in place this week. The elementary outdoor classroom space and playground, we met with the installers for these projects. We visited the site. We really started the very concrete and specific plans for the project. And now we're in the process of ordering materials and just really getting to start those projects that we're excited about. The middle school outdoor classroom, we discussed that project as well with the installers, and we're looking at that for late winter, early spring. The high school addition goes out to bid in late November, early December. And once we put that out to bid, we will have a construction company in place and we'll begin that project. And the primary school playground, because we have some unspent carryover money from our preschool grant, we are in a position to be able to expand the existing playground, which is used by pre-K, but it's actually used by the entire primary school, and moving forward would be used by the entire primary school. So we're looking to expand the newer playground and replace the older playground with the little green canopy. So we're excited about that one, and that's looking for spring as well. I had the opportunity to attend the New Jersey Department of Education Commissioner's Convocation ceremony this month. And at this ceremony, we were able to hear from what the commissioner called her cabinet, who shared what is coming to us in terms of mandates, resources, and so on at the Department of Ed. One of the things that was discussed is potential funding for pre-K facilities, and we are pursuing more information about that. The Department of Education has not released anything on that, but we're looking at that pretty much daily on the New Jersey Department of Education website. The moment that comes out, the moment that we know what the criteria is, we will be first in line to apply for those funds and see if that can in any way really supplement what we're trying to do with the pre-K building. And the rest of my superintendent's report today is dedicated to a few presentations. The first one being our 21-22 school self-assessment for determining grades under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. That's going to be presented by Mr. Matthew Crouch, who is our district anti-bullying coordinator. And then after he is finished, Dr. Joseph Trevisano, our assistant superintendent of curriculum, is going to present a data analysis review. And he's going to go over what our data looks like from elementary, middle, and high schools in various content areas. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Crouch, and he'll start us off.
Good evening. The Commissioner of the Education is required to grade each public school and the district's efforts to implement anti-bullying based on the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. This self-assessment tool is done by each one of the schools, and the implementation of the Anti-Bullying Rights Bill from July 21 through June 30th, 2022. The assessment tool includes 8 core elements, which address all of the requirements for schools, and it is offered, it is assigned to us via the school safety and school climate team for each indicator based on a criteria and available documentation. assessment core elements are HIB programs and approaches or other initiatives, training on the BO, the Board of Education's approved HIB policy, other staff instruction as well as training programs, curriculum and instruction on HIB as well as related information and skills, HIB personnel, school level HIB incidents, reporting procedures, HIB investigation procedures, and HIB reporting. The highest score that you can get in any one of those categories is a 3, and it goes all the way down to 0. The assigning of this school district grade will be calculated, and then we get the overall score from the self-assessment within the district and then report it. As you can see in 21 and 22, 21-22, the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school received a 15 in core element 1. In core element 2, we had 9 for all of the schools except for the middle school, 14 in all 15s under number 3, and so on. Each school met and exceeded the standards with a district grade of 77. The high school, all schools met or exceeded the requirements in all areas. Accurate investigation reporting procedures are effective programs offered to the students and ample opportunities to reflect and enhance the programs that we are offering. We ensure that every single one of our district employees is GCN trained on our district procedures for HIB. We increase the data collection and our data analysis, and we have coordinated district-wide programming. For the difference between the 2021 and the 2022, the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school have all reached the highest score that you can possibly get, which I think is wonderful news. And we missed it by 1 point in the primary school. And that is where we're at. Does anyone have any questions?
No?
Yes, yes,
I always do.
sure.
So with those scores,
I'll go
could
back.
you summarize how South River is doing against other towns and against state, are there state values?
Yeah, there are state values, but we are exceeding. Like this year, as I said, we were literally missed it by 1 point in the primary school, which is fantastic. And that will not happen next year, so I expect to see us get a straight down the line. But yes, so we're you can't get any higher than that, really. I mean, 1 point off is about as good as you can get. You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, members of the Board of Education, members of the public, colleagues. My first statement is this. I may make a few mistakes. About 10 minutes before the board meeting, I snapped my glasses in half.
Oh,
So if I make a mistake on something that you see up there, please either call my attention to it, because there's no way I'm going to read these little tiny words in this piece of paper, so I'm going to use that to help me out. I was planning on reading. Not going to happen. Anyway, as typical for this time is the data presentation for the standardized testing that's been done last year, 2021 and 22. The interesting thing, or the key with this presentation, is going to be to keep in mind that for 2 years there was no standardized testing in the state of New Jersey because of something called a pandemic that we were faced with. So some of the results are a little bit challenging. Some of the results are eye-opening, but by the end of the presentation, I'm just going to cover a couple things that we're doing in the district to address some of the things that we found through the data analysis. Anyway, in red, oh my, that's still small. I can see it. It's bigger. In red, just as a notice that, no, I don't need those. I appreciate that. I was waiting for like the blue glasses or something that didn't matter. Anyway, a few years ago when the pandemic hit, there was Executive Order 117, Executive 117, really put a hold on all standardized testing. During this past school year, they lifted 117 and they reinstituted all student learning. Last year, for those of you who might remember the presentation, we did a presentation on Start Strong. And Start Strong doesn't have any comparative data. So I was asked, can we compare ourselves to other districts with Start Strong? And the design of that test is a self-assessment, if you would. So we get scores from that, we get standard analysis, we get question analysis, but I can't compare how we do to another district, to somebody else in the state, or even the state average, because there is none. This data that I'm going to share with you tonight is a comparative data to other districts in the state across multiple counties. Just a reminder, what we have, the student learning assessments are in the 3 content areas: English, language arts, mathematics, and science. They're pretty much delineated what they evaluate proficiency for. The science assessment, as I go through some of the scores, the science assessment has a maximum rating score of a 4, where SLA for English and math have a maximum scoring of a 5. So some of the comparison is going to be, we're going to compare it correctly and properly to all the districts, but you can't compare the scoring from the science assessment to the math and English assessment. So I just preface that now. Much of the data is really, really small on this, so I'm going to have this posted on my website for some of the more specific information, such as demographic analysis, programmatic analysis, and gender analysis. So this will be available for your viewing pleasure, if you will, and obviously I'm always around to answer questions on it. But to move ahead, the summary by school is listed up here, and as you'll notice, I did kind of qualify it. On the bottom, the science scores, we have the minimal and the limited level, 1 and 2, and then we have our proficient and advanced levels, 3 and 4. All other tests, language arts and math, have scores of 1 through 5. 4 and 5 being the operative scores, because 4 and 5 would be your proficient or your meeting standards and exceeding standards. The level 3, which is why I put that independently, the level 3 is what we call approaching expectations. For those of you who may have been reading NJSLA scores over the past, number of years, the approaching expectations is a score from 725 to 749. 750 is what's considered to be a meeting score. So in theory, if you receive a score of a 749, you're a 3. If you're a 750, you're a 4. I think that's important to delineate, because the children that fall into that level of level 3 could be very, very, very close, and it's just a question, a response, a part of a question that would then push them over that threshold. So that's why I identified the data this way. But regardless of that, your overall summaries by school I've identified by those tiers. To break it down further into the state average of language arts, this is where we can compare ourselves to every district in the state. All the data from the state is collated. The percentages on the right-hand side of each column are the state averages. The percentages on the left-hand side of each column are our district percentages. And again, on the left-hand side, all the way to the left, of the total tested in the district. Last year, again, for the first time in 3 years, we tested 1,162 students for NJSLA English. Their percentages are listed across. I do have raw scores and data, and I can provide that for you at any given time that you'd like. Again, these are broken out by their different expectation levels, 1 through 5, and this will be available on the website. As I mentioned, the next set of data is really small, so I'll kind of pass over that. I believe you have a copy of it, or you will have a copy of it, and like I said, as of tomorrow morning at 6:45 when I get into work, I'll be happy to put this up on the website so you can see it, or at least for me, I'll be zooming in on it. So that's that. We have a program analysis for English language arts also. So our students are identified by free and reduced lunch if they have a 504 in place, if they're ELL students, classified as special education and general education students. So it is all broken out. Again, the prior slide is by race. The next slide is by program, and the next slide is also by gender. This programmatic analysis, or this analysis, is broken out independently for the language arts assessment, then the math assessment, and then the science assessment. So we have a lot of data that we can use to do any kind of correlational analysis, which is what my plan over the next 2 months is going to be. As we move into mathematics, the South River State average, your averages are itemized the same way. A caveat to this, of course, is on the bottom. The Grade 8 exam does not include students that are considered to be honor students taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Those students are going to be mixed in with our Algebra 1 numbers almost on the bottom. The students that took the geometry exam last year, those were your honor students that took Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and then as a 9th grade student, took the geometry. A few years ago, the testing requirements changed where we did not test students above grade 9. So these students are, the only ones that are listed in geometry are grade 9 students taking the course. Again, on the bottom, we have the numbers, 1,219 students and your associated percentages. Your analysis by program is still here. Right now, we have the analysis by race. In the analysis by race, I'll just point out one note for you. You might see where it says elementary school, there's other, and there's a notification of less than 10. Any demographic group that has a result of 10, or I'm sorry, less than 10 is not reported because those students have the capacity to be identified. So we do not report data for a student population of less than 10 students. So you will see some the ampersand with 10 and then no data beyond that to see where their achievement level is. So if you see that, it's not that I forgot to put some data in, although I might have. But in this case, it's not true. We have the programmatic analysis as well. Total students on the bottom of all of the different grade bands through all of our schools. And then again, we have our gender analysis here for the mathematics assessment. Following this, we get into the state averages for science. Now, science assessment is interesting. It's only given in grades 5, 8, and 11. And currently, the science assessment is not a graduation requirement in grade 11. That said, when they changed it many years ago, it was the end of course biology competency exam. And I think I'm using all those letters right. And it was only a test in biology. Well, they changed that over to be a comprehensive science exam in grade 11, and the results of the exam are actually designed to assist districts in evaluating the curriculum, program, and materials. It's not designed to be a graduation requirement. Now, it is still something that we look at to say, how did our kids do? How can we improve? How can we help our students? But it does not count towards high school graduation, 8th grade promotion, or even 5th grade promotion. The information here is given to us so we can actually revise and refine what we do and how we educate our students. As we move forward, it is also the program analysis by race, the same program analysis by program, and then finally the analysis by gender. Again, all this is going to be available tomorrow morning as soon as I get into work. Following that is your typical, your ACT, SAT, composite, and AP exam data that we do here. You'll notice the comparison of last year to this year, and that's only South River results. That is not state or national results. The only state or national results that I did report was ACT, which is not applicable, and we have the SAT content as how we are compared to College Board. Now, the College Board comparison is actually a national comparison. It is not the New Jersey comparison. So those are the numbers that I have there. Plus our content mean score is located below. And while I do want to note in this slide, what you will notice is the South River performance did actually decline from 2021 to 22. So did the state performance. I did want to make that delineation right there. So the state performance did also decline. It actually declined comparable to what we did. So although the numbers are not where we want them to be, they're actually in line with what the state and the state performance was. Okay. Moving again, we have our AP mean scores. Last year we did have in many of our classes, or some of our classes, lower enrollments again that we anticipated. Some of the challenges that we had as we compared the 2021 to 22 AP exam. In 2021, if I remember correctly, and I'm going to maybe ask for a little help on this, some of the exams were given, you had the potential to take them live on paper or on computer, and if you did do it on computer, it wasn't the same assessment. In fact, it was actually less questions. So some of that comparative data is challenging because you're not necessarily comparing the same test or same test details from one year to the next. What we're looking at now, again, last year was our first year of real, full testing So as we move forward and as we start to do our planning, we're using this information, the 2022, almost as a benchmark to say, here's where we are, how do we move forward, what can we do differently? Many of our AP courses do have single-digit enrollments, and I will tell you, so far, most of our AP classes, if you would, have higher enrollments than that. And I think they've already submitted their AP test. Oh, they're not, they haven't, they're going to soon. Thank you. So they're going to submit for the AP test as well. So these numbers, in terms of the raw numbers, number of students, will increase for this coming school year. Access for ELLs, this was given last year. So, I'm sorry, in 2021, access was one of the tests that was still required, even though we were in the midst of the pandemic. The scores are broken down by listening, speaking, reading, and writing on top, and then combination scores as you move down the left-hand column. So there's actually 7 scores that we get for our ELL students. This is our district data across in terms of how students did perform in each of the 6 levels. Level 1 is your entering level. We find most of our port of entry and new students are level 1 students, and then as we get upwards of level 4, 5, and 6, these are the students who have their language acquisition skills have improved significantly, and they would exit or be nearing exit as we move ahead. Again, you'll see 7 different categories on the left-hand side, the bottom 3, which are composite categories, and then the overall scores down the bottom. Finally, I did a comparison from the last number of years. Again, there's that little blurb in there, 1920, there was no access testing. Of particular note on this slide that I'd like to point your attention to is the total number of students that were tested. In 2020-21, we tested 268 students in the district. Last year, 409 were tested with results. Okay, sorry. ELLs are English language learners. These are our students that come from potentially other countries or situations where English is not their native language. They'll speak some other language. In this district, we predominantly get many people whose home language or native language is Spanish, followed by Portuguese. We have had a number of Ukrainian students recently join us for a number of different reasons. We do have a few other associated languages, and they escape me. I believe we have a few Russian speakers as well in the district. But again, as we look forward and we compare this data, we're looking already at approximately 150 more students that were tested last year than the year prior, showing as our enrollment grows. The DLM is it's an assessment. It's a cognitive assessment for those people who they have significant learning disabilities or other disabilities that prevent them from taking the New Jersey State Student Learning Assessments. These are provided to allow students a different way to demonstrate their knowledge and their mastery. They can do mathematics, language arts, and science, right? And they're evaluated in 4 levels, emerging through advanced. Now these are given in very targeted students with significant learning significant disabilities, if you would. Our results this year are delineated up here. As you'll note, we do have students that are eligible for the DLM in grades 3 through 5, 6, 7, and a grade 11. I think one grade 11 student as well. So it's a very small population of students that take the DLM, but these are our results from the DLM. Okay. One thing that we wanted to point out is our South River High School graduation rate. Again, I did a comparative analysis. Thank you, Camilla, for the data on this. From 2018, the class of 2018 to the class of 2022, and currently class of 2022 that just graduated in June, we had a 91.7% high school graduation rate. The state average was not available at this time, but you'll note that the state average is comparable anywhere between 90.5% to 91. So based on that information, we are looking that we are above the, we would potentially fall above the state average in graduation rate. So that's very interesting. All right, takeaways. Somebody has to tell me why I do takeaways in red and then I do the next slide in blue. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet, but I do. So as we noted last year, COVID-19 really impacted our students, and it was from an educational point of view as well as from a testing point of view. I mean, really, in theory, if you think about it, kids hadn't seen a standardized test in 3 years. And some of our youngest students, as we note on here, some of our youngest students that were in 5th grade had never taken a standardized test. And now they're 10, 11 years old, and we're telling them to take a standardized test. They didn't know what it meant. So that became a challenge, right? Based on the results, we've really identified a number of areas of need for our students, and it can be noted, and as a former math teacher, it pains me to say this, we need help, we need to do some work in mathematics. It's a fact. Our district ESL population is significantly increasing. We've actually seen more students in our ESL program even this year. And last year, we note that we did put a new math series in place for grades K-8. It was still year 1. We were coming off the pandemic. So we need to look at continued fidelity of this math series to really have the teachers buy in and implement it in order to have an effect on our students. So moving, oh my God, it's really small. So maybe I'll try to read it here. That won't work. Anyway, no, I should know this anyway. So moving forward, continuing, we do have our ASI program. In the ASI program, we do have LLI, which is a level literacy intervention program. It is used to help students with their reading. We just put in place the Pearson Success Maker program for our academic support in the middle school, as well as academic support for all in the high school. We also put in place for ESL and ELA, or language arts staff, another intervention program called ILIT. We're working on training the teachers again for this to try to provide them an opportunity to address English language arts skills in a different way. We continue to use iReady. I'm going to skip down a couple of these because we are going to be able to see this online. We're working on benchmark assessments, and our benchmark assessments are actually going to be targeted assessments that are standards aligned. And we do that because as we look at some standard alignment, we're able to take data from the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment, our local benchmark assessment, Start Strong assessment, 3 different vendors, 3 different tests. We're able to now look at that information across time and identify potential gaps in standards and information. So we're in the process of gathering the data, putting it together, and then making instructional decisions beginning now for the remainder of the school year. And that's much of the work that we're going to be engaged in moving forward. We still train all of our staff in Nurtured Heart, diversity, equity, and different instructional techniques. And we're really still looking into additional resources and prep materials that can be used to support students in science. Of other note, we are exploring the potential to look into additional resources or changing our resources for our science instruction to provide them a little bit newer and more updated. And as well, we did revise our K-8 math series. We adopted it last year. We're looking at potentially moving forward and taking that into the high school and revising our entire high school math series with updated materials and information. Again, some of our information, I mean, mathematics is mathematics, but the resources, the technology, the intervention materials that you get more in the newer things that are better aligned are significantly better than they were 5-6 years ago. So we are looking into that as well. That's our district assessment schedule. Again, this is also available online. It identifies all of your AP exams, the graduation proficiency assessment, which is given in grade 11. That is a new graduation requirement. However, not for the class of 23. The class of 23 was given a pass by Governor Murphy saying that we are not using the graduation proficiency assessment, so there is no testing requirement for this class. Next year there will be, so we will give that to our juniors. And then finally, any questions from the board, public? Yes?
Great. So with the GPA, and they're talking about releasing the scores, so at least you'll have that as a benchmark as well. For
Yes.
one more component, because that'll capture your grade 11 kids.
Absolutely.
And then with the update to the to the graduation requirements, hopefully, that can give you a really great picture going into senior year for graduation rate.
And that's what we're really looking at. Algebra 1 being the foundational math course at the high school, now you combine that with the GPA, at least in mathematics, you have a longitudinal look at standards from foundational to performance, plus the geometry standards that are in the middle of that. We should be able to get a better assessment, and the benchmarks that we're using at the high school will be done in algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. So we're going to be able to do a full standards analysis across multiple courses.
Right, and you'll even be able to start with grade 8 then, so
Yep.
that adds a whole extra year for math.
Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
That was good.
Anything else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
All right, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Crouch and Dr. Trevisano for your presentation. And I do just want to, as a follow-up to Dr. Trevisano's presentation, when we make determinations about how we're going to use funding for supplemental programs, for additional tutoring programs, for new resources, this is what we go to. We go to the feedback from our teachers, we go to performance data. We use multiple measures to make determinations as to where we're going to see that there's a need and where we're going to invest in supporting our students within that need. The board has also, for the past several years, approved new curriculum materials. We cycle through them. 4 years ago, it was our language arts, then our math. This last year was social studies. So like Dr. Trevisano said, we are looking at either expanding the math into the secondary level in terms of updated resources, or potentially looking at science, or potentially some of both for the next budget year.
Excellent.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you
Sylvia,
for
do
your,
have to say anything about 3.6?
it's gonna be under
Yes, that is
consent.
under consent, yes.
And that will be. And I just want to thank our presenters, very good presentations. We do appreciate you coming here to the board and keeping us updated on that information. And with that, could we have a motion on the superintendent's report?
Nielsen, move the superintendent's report is read.
And motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second? Second by Mr. Basak. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. The motion passes. At this time, we are going to open up our meeting for the reception of visitors. And this is for the public to address agenda items only. There will be another reception of visitors at the end, toward the end of this meeting, where the public may address any items that they have of concern for the Board of Education. So with that, anyone wishing to address any agenda items from the public, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and please keep your comments to a 10-minute time limit. On first call, on second call, and on third call. I'm going to move to close the public portion, and we are going to go on to our committee reports. The first is our consent resolution. Mr. Rosa.
Yes. The South River Board of Education, by means of a consent resolution, adopt various resolutions of a routine and non-controversial nature at one time. And whereas the below listed resolutions are hereby adopted by the said Board of Education in whole, as if the same were individually acted upon. These are the Superintendent of Schools, items 3.1 through 3.3 and 3.6. The President of the Board, item 5.2. The Athletics Extracurricula, 6.1. For Buildings and Grounds, we have 7.1. For Finance, we have 8.1 through 8.7. For Instruction, we have 9.1 through 9.4. For Policy and Legislation, we have item 11.1. For human resources, we have items 12.1 through 12.22. And for safety and risk management, we have 13.1 through 13.3.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the consent resolution?
Nielsen, move the consent resolution.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen,
Second.
second by Mrs. Bush. Are there any questions or abstentions on any of the items?
Yes, I will be abstaining on item, finance, item 8.3, please.
Anyone else? Mr. Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Beza,
Yes.
Mr. Bus,
Yes.
Mrs. Bush,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mrs. Leon,
Yes.
Mr. Nielsen,
Yes.
Ms. Sadowski,
Yes.
Ms. Young Yao,
Yes.
Ms. Urbanek.
Yes. Thank you, the motion carries. At this time, we're going to hear from our committees. The first is going to be athletics and extracurricular. Mr. Budzen.
There's only one item that was revised amount for the field hockey co-op. That's all I have.
Thank you. Buildings and grounds, Mr. Nielsen.
Thank you, Madam President. 7.1, addition approved comprehensive maintenance plan for the 22 through 2024 school years. And I would like to read Mr. Balage's report into the record if possible. As you can see at the top, it's just general maintenance that the staff does from day to day. And he says, fall is here and the school year is in full swing. Our maintenance staff continues to work hard to keep up with all the work orders that come in with the new school year. Recent wet weather has caused us to focus on the caulking of windows and gutters at the elementary middle school to prevent against leaks. The middle school walk-in refrigerator was serviced and refrigerant was added. The district boilers were fired up to combat the cooler temperatures, and the filters for the water bottle filling stations were changed in all the buildings. The high school lunch lines received a new service well. Additional cameras were added at the primary school trailers, and new furniture assembled and a refrigerator installed. Outside, our grounds department continues to prepare courts and paint fields for tennis, football, soccer, and cross-country. And it has not been easy with the wet weather we have had recently. Our team has worked hard to prepare for our fall sports playoffs. Best of luck to all our teams in all ways. Go Rams. That's all I have today, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Nielsen. Finance, Mrs. Lowe.
Thank you. There was only additions to the requisition list. Everything else I had read at our previous meeting, and that is all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Bush, instruction?
Sure, there were 4 items on the instruction agenda, and they have not changed since Monday evening.
Okay. Thank you. There is no report for negotiations for policy and legislation. Ms. Byrne.
There was only one item on Monday, nothing's been added since then.
Thank you. Our Human Resources Chair, Mr. Basak.
Thank you, Madam President. I have 2 revisions since Monday night and 5 additions. Item 12.16, approved revised job description number C-2, Director of Student Services, Special Projects. Item 12.17, approve appoint Matthew Crouch, Director of Student Services, Special Projects, 2022-2023 school year. Item 12.18, addition approved payment to staff members for 7th period coverage, high school, middle school, 2022-2023 school year. Item 12.19, addition approved family leave, Patrick McDowell, high school music teacher, 2022-2023 school year. Item 12.20, addition approved appoint Sean Raplaya, high school math teacher. Item 12.21, addition approved additional adult school staff member, 2022-2023 school year. Item 12.22, addition approved infant and family leave, Rochelle Barra, middle school special education teacher, 2022-2023 school year. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Our Safety and Risk Management, Mrs. Sadowski.
Thank you, Mrs. Urbanek. There is one addition since Monday night's meeting. Item number 13.3, addition approved high school life skills class field trips to various dates and locations for the 22-23 school year. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. School Community Relations, Ms. Young Yao.
Thank you. Southern High School Student of the Month for September 2022, Bianca Ramirez has been selected as our first Student of the Month for the 22-23 school year. due to her exemplary academic performance and commitment to community service and leadership. Congratulations, Bianca, on an impressive and outstanding commitment to your school and community. Next is the National Merit Scholarship Program, Yusuf Muhammad. Roughly 34,000 commended students throughout the nation are being recognized for their exceptional academic promise. Those being named commended students have demonstrated outstanding potential for academic success. These students represent a valuable national resource recognizing their accomplishments, as well as their key roles their schools play in their academic development. It is vital to the advancement of educational excellence in our nation. Congratulations to student Yusuf Muhammad for this great accomplishment. Next is the Middle School Student of the Month for September 2022. For grade 6, ELA, Sophia Gross, Math, Christian Hayes, Science, Sesam Anarbilka, Social Studies, Sebastian Rios, PE, Daniel Prett, Cycle, Ivana Lizardo. Grade 7, ELA, Alana Lee, Math, Leah Barreto, Science, Reese Riga, Social Studies, Joseph Gopel, PE, Landon Carmody, Cycle, Olivia Clemente. And grade 8, ELA, Daniel Soshkin, Math, Robbie Glover, Science, Lucy Silva, Social Studies, Lucas Anzac, ESL, Ashley Ortiz Barreto, PE, Andrew Gill, and Cycle, Jasmine Olivera. And that is all.
Thank you. Mr. Nielsen, is there anything from the School Board Borough Council Liaison Committee?
Yeah, they are having their trunk or treat, I believe it's this Sunday over at the old Corpus Christi School parking lot down here, but I see that they're calling for heavy rains on Sunday.
Oh.
So if that kind of gets washed out, don't forget that on the 27th, our high school students will be having something up here. So if you miss out on your trunk or treat and you really want to get that Halloween spirit, come on up and have a good time here in the hallways of the school with our students. That's all I have for tonight, Madam President.
Good stuff, thank you. PTA Liaison, Mrs. Sadowski.
Thank you. I'm going to start with the primary school. They had a meeting last night. They are selling greeting cards, Route 18 discount cards, Home of the Rams car magnets or refrigerator magnets. A couple of events that they had this past month. They had a glow party at the beginning of the month. And earlier this week they had a sing-along in Kindness Quest laser light show that I heard went over very, very well. For the elementary school, they have their first meeting of the year scheduled for Tuesday, October 25th. There's lots of talks about doing something for Halloween, possibly a coloring contest for Thanksgiving. And I am pleased to announce that the middle school PTA, there's a revival. They are working on getting things going. They met 2 weeks ago and they started discussing their events for the school year. And finally, I just want to highlight all the hard work and planning that goes into all these events, fundraising, for all the PTAs across the board. And these things are not possible without parents and volunteering to help and for all these events. So I urge all these parents to get involved in their child's school, and so we can make all of these events more successful and successful to begin with. Thank you.
Very well put, thank you. South River Public Library Liaison, Mr. Budzik.
October 25th, they're having a pumpkin patch. On Mondays for adults, they have the gentle yoga for adults. You have to sign up on the website. On Monday, they have buddies building. On Fridays, they have little learning story time. And also, if you have time to go to the library, they do decorate for Halloween, and it's pretty nice. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Our South River Foundation for Educational Excellence Liaison, Mrs. Lowe.
Thank you. We met last evening, so there are some notes that I would like to share. Literally, little notes, but it's what I have handy. They are still looking for student reps. They have to confirm that the two that had volunteered, they have not appeared at any meeting. So they're trying to see if they can have a couple more students in order to support them. They are going to do a PayPal giving campaign. They are linked on our district website, so you can access. If not, you can search. I keep them bookmarked on my computer, and it's just srfee.org, and it'll get you right there. All the information is placed in that area, but they're going to do a Star of Excellence fundraiser. So let's say I'm going to use Ruby Mangione and use PTA as an example. So let's say somebody really appreciates her hard work with the PTA. They can go through SRFE, they go through PayPal, they click $25 as a donation, and SRFE will recognize her with a certificate with a little blurb that says, "Thank you so much for your dedication to the PTA. We appreciate you." So whatever your message is, and it's limited to characters, the information can be put, and that gets delivered then. So the funds from that will then come back through mini grants for the teachers. So the goal is, if they can expand this to a certain way, they will be able to show appreciation in the district, and at the same time, that fundraising event gets back into the district through mini grants for people who apply. So that's their current one. The dinner dance, they did book the lower room, easy to remember, 2323, February 3rd, 23. And that will be the last weekend that Riamar is open before the construction starts. So they will have, from 7 to 11, they will have a DJ. It's $70 in advance, $80 at the door. They have their 3 community members that they are going to sponsor. I am not going to share the names, even though I know who they are, because they will be reaching out to the 3 people. Once they do, I will have no problem then sharing the names, which should be by the November meeting. And then the last thing that I'd like to share is that Ms. Oswald mentioned that after this year, she will not continue with the foundation. So if anybody is interested in joining the foundation at a board level for their board to continue so that they can remain an active foundation, that please reach out to anybody in that board, Ms. Oswald, Meredith, wait, what's Evelyn's daughter? Larson. I'm like, wait, I taught her. Meredith Larson, Chartrice, and Pam Burham are part of the members of the board, and you can discuss with them your interest, your level of wanting to assist with volunteering, and they will now have that as an additional piece that they will be working on. And that is all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any old or new business to come before the board at this time?
I'd just like to
Yeah.
add something, if you don't mind. When Ms. Sadowski was making her report, it brought back a really important message that I think that we all understand at a level, and but we see it differently. So many of us at this table have worn different hats, not just as parents, not just as board members here. We've served on other committees, we serve on town council. I'm looking at people that I've taught that are sitting in the audience that have made commitments to this town as well. And it's important because lots of times when we wear different hats, we have a lot of different knowledge, and it's really out there to help each other. So I did elementary, primary, middle school PTA for years, but when I did PTA, I couldn't be a board member. So when I became a board member, I had to stop being PTA, but we still support the PTA by doing fundraisers, becoming members, even though I don't have a child in the primary, but I have former students who have their children in the primary school, and in the end, we are a large community, and we are a community that stands by each other. We don't have to agree all the time. And disagreement is good, because with disagreement comes growth. So in my house, we are problem solvers. We are not problem makers. And that is a line that we use often, because if you're going to complain, that's fine. I'll listen to you. But then your next sentence better be, and this is what I'm going to do about it. Because if not, it's like, walk away. Mommy's not ready for you. So it's just part of like, it struck a chord today because we are all volunteers. And I value the time that you spent being a PTA liaison, and John gives us all the messages from the library. Because I can't do library if I'm being a mom and I'm doing this. And it's nice that we all get to spend a couple of minutes discussing what's important, right? And that's the kids in this district. So that's all I wanted to add, I'm sorry. But tonight it hit me and I'm like, nah, it might be a good time to say something.
Yes,
So I
it is.
appreciate it. I appreciate, I appreciate everything everybody does here and out there. And then we just work together to the best that we can. So thank you.
Thank you, and don't ever apologize, because what you said last is that the kids are the most important, is what matters most. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Mr. Nowicki for supervising the tour of the high school for the class of 70 on Friday. He also, because of one classmate had plane trouble getting from Florida. So after the whole thing was over, he gave him a mini tour. He was very appreciative, so I thank him for that. That's all I have.
Very nice recognition. Thank you. Mr. Parton, do you have a report from us, for us?
Not for public, but we do have an executive session discussion with the
Yes, we do. Thank you. At this time, we will go on to the payment of bills. Mrs. Lau.
I just X'd out. We're good, we're sharers, see? Look, perfect timing. The Finance Committee recommends that all bills presented, having been certified by the School Business Administrator Board Secretary, be paid as listed, and I so move.
There's a motion by Mrs. Lowe. Is there a
Nielsen.
second? Second by Mr. Nielsen. Any questions about any of the bills? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes. At this time, the board is now going to open up the meeting for the reception of visitors. And this is for the public to bring any concern or comment that they have for the board. Please state your name and address when you come to the mic, and please keep your comments to a 10-minute time limit. The public session is open on first call, second call, and third call. Seeing none, we will close this public portion. At this time, the Board of Education is going to go into an executive board session, closed meeting, and that is resolved that pursuant to Section 7 and 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, the following subjects be discussed at a session of the Board of Education closed to the public, and that topic is personnel. It is presently anticipated that the items to be discussed in closed session can be disclosed to the public when resolved. Is there a motion?
Nielsen.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bush. Roll call, please.
Mr. Basin.
Yes.
Mr. Butson.
Yes.
Mrs. Bush.
Yes.
Ms. Byrne.
Yes.
Mrs. Lau.
Yes.
Mr. Nielsen.
Yes.
Ms. Sadowski.
Yes.
Ms. Young Yao.
Yes.
Ms. Urbanic.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much for attending. Kevin, you got that switch or you're doing?
I got that switch.
All right.